Hey, I'm Internet Cool Guy, Dollarino Jones, and this is a video about Blaseball, which means it's going to be a little difficult to make in a way that doesn't already assume at least like a baseline level understanding of the source material, and I can't really know how much I recommend the video if you have absolutely none. But still, in the interest of fairness, Blaseball is essentially a baseball ARG simulation horror game where the bulk of the gameplay consists of betting on games and voting to make changes to your favorite team's roster or other capabilities, and the bulk of its story and thematic content being PNGs. The themes of the game itself are situated in the realms of existential horror and capitalism, which are the same thing, but one of the biggest draws for its fans is the creator encouraged and occasionally referenced freedom of interpretation you're given with the randomly generated Blaseball players' personalities, appearances, and histories. More often than not, these fan-base created identities are based in some way on the player's name or one of the other randomly generated attributes they possess. Still, through Blaseball's evolution and expansion, several players have proven themselves pivotal to Blaseball's story, whether through developer intention or fan interference. Even more have accrued accolades or abilities measurable by metrics entirely divorced from fanon. So, like a man possessed, I've been obsessively keeping a list of them in a Google Doc for about a year now. I figured during this long break between eras it'd be neat to make a video showcasing a more objective basis for some of who the more notable or important Blaseball players are, and for reasons entirely divorced from being good at the sport, you know? Plus, lent itself well to a clickbaity title. So the first thing I want to say about this list's parameters is that firsts are generally not going to be a big consideration for me. I don't care who the first player to slam dunk a ball into the Springle modification was. It doesn't really interest me. There's some gray area there and also just exceptions I want to make for things like first and onlys or things that are unlikely to be repeated. Just, junk like that. Second, it's broken down into categories generally of decreasing importance to Blaseball overall. But it's also structured by more rigid categories than that. You'll see what I mean, but the placements are a little weird, but I think it makes sense to go from the top down. Third, I'm probably missing a lot. Blaseball super information dense. Anyone who's remotely interested in it can tell you that. So, if I missed your favorite player who genuinely deserves to be on it, or one who doesn't because you didn't understand the list and you want to tell me I'm wrong, let me know. I'm looking forward to it. I will respond. So first up, we've got intrinsically important players central to the plot. And starting off that list, we have Wyatt Mason. Wyatt Mason was at the center of an event called the Wyatt Masoning, where several members of the Tacos lineup were renamed Wyatt Mason, and only some of them were properly reverted back to their original names. Wyatt Mason himself sort of became another player we'll get to in a minute, and also sort of became an entity that exists in a microphone that exists on Twitter. So, being at the center of this big event which altered other players, involved off-site, interactions with fans, all that kind of stuff, easy call for this slot if you ask me. Next, we have Parker McMillan, the original. Parker McMillan was a star player in Ultra League Blaseball, which was the original Blaseball, or at least the oldest we know about, let's put it that way. And in Ultra League Blaseball, Parker was hot shit until he was cursed to never make any money for anyone anymore and burn everything to the ground. He killed everyone he could have held near besides his mommy. And then he was locked away and got out again and did it again. And then he was locked away again and got out it again. Parker McMillan 4. Parker McMillan 4 is what makes Parker McMillan truly like the lost Tumblr sexy man. There is another version of him who is more naive and a little kinder, you know, really just a sweet guy who dies tragically. He's coffee now, no one cares, drink up. He's gone. A lot of people care, I don't. Next up, Megan Ito. Megan Ito loves to steal things. She trades, she traders, she swaps stuff around, and she's also the person who set Parker loose. You love to see it. Well, there's also new Megan Ito, who is Megan, except she's an alternate, but instead of just being a modification, she's new because Megan wasn't alternated in a normal way. She was caught in a superposition. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of weird stuff in Blaseball. Rounding out the first category, we have Uncle Plasma and Liquid Friend. These two rule. They are hard-boiled detectives first seen in the coffee cup, which did feature a lot of, you know, new players, but they all belong to guest teams, including Uncle Plasma and Liquid Friend. But unlike every other guest player, Uncle Plasma and Liquid Friend would make the transition into the ILB, where their hard-boiled modification would interact directly with this plot of players going missing or being redacted, which would eventually come to a close. But these two are very obviously special, have unique mechanics tied to revealing plot information, and also they can become yoked and powerbomb sharks. Or dolphins with teeth, I guess.
It's a dolphin with teeth.
A dolphin.
So next, we're going to the second category, which is players more or less intentionally given a unique attribute for plot reasons. What was that? So, first off, we have Nan. The only mononym in the ILB proper, as well as what used to be Wyatt Mason, like literally the original player data for the funny microphone guy. So, I mean, you know, there's a million reasons that you could even argue Nan should be in the first category or share a slot with Wyatt Mason. I think there's a little bit of argument room. It's just cute to start them both off. You know, it's fun. Next, Chorby Soul. Intentionally given a massive soul by the developers, which later had ramifications. And was also preserved in a unorthodox way for safety reasons. So, unique guy. The next two are Agan Espinoza and Claire Ballard. Maybe there's other ways one or two of them could qualify, but I'm more interested in the fact they both have modifications that are unique to them that have to do with incineration. You could I'm considering it plot. You could argue they're just guys with weird modifications. Okay. Next, we're getting into shenanigans territory. Players granted a unique position due to random chance or game-banned improvisation. And to start off that category, we have Jalen Hot Dog Fingers, the protagonist of Blaseball. Historically, most modifications. Not at one time, just career-wide. She's been through a lot. She was the incineration for the Forbidden Book, first necromancy, the only saboteur there's ever been, and entities can't shut up about her. It's Jalen. Next up, we've got another duo, Thomas England and Six Pack Dog Walker, who were at the core of the Waveback event. Basically, there was a crash or some such on the Blaseball site or servers. Things got rolled back a few minutes, and nothing too crazy happened in those minutes. Maybe a few games were undone. But interestingly, Thomas England burned to death, died, and was replaced by Six Pack Dog Walker. Six Pack no longer existed, or shouldn't, but instead of letting either of them completely disappear, Thomas England's stats were just renamed Six Pack Dog Walker, replacing Thomas England, and also given a bat named Bangers and Smash, or something like that, in honor of him. Weird thing, very strange. Developers went out of their way to do it and leave like a remnant of it. I'd say it counts. Next, something that arguably should have just been part of the first category, but I didn't make it that way. Players specifically referenced by or affected by major plot events or entities. So, entity mentions, things entities personally seek out to do to you, just junk like that. To illustrate, first off, we've got a trio: Peanut Bong, Peanut Holloway, and Peanutial Duffy. These are the victims of the Dan to Peanut conversion, where everyone named Dan and Daniel were renamed to Peanut. So they're also referred to as the Shelled One's progeny. So that's an entity mention. They're special to him. They're special guys. In a similar vein, I have the Season 3 LA Unlimited tacos. Because they were Wyatt Masoned and then unmasoned or localized, brought up on Twitter, specific fan interaction, the whole works, right? They count. Next, these guys shouldn't count. Marco Stink, Rivers Clemens, and Summers Preston were all technical victims of the Wyatt Masoning, but not really. They happened separately and were all variants of Wyatt Mason, presumably for testing reasons, because it was just undone on its own and only lasted a short time. Weird stuff. Speaking of Wyatt Mason, we're not done yet. We're not done with the Wyatt train, because Wyatt Mason 1, who isn't named Wyatt Mason 1 in game, but it makes sense to call them that because Wyatt Mason 1 up to 13 are echoes of Wyatt Mason, only 2 of which have stuck around, which make them extra special little boys, that being 10 and 4, affectionately referred to as Max and Ivy. You get it? It's cute. They're special guys because Wyatt Mason is a special guy. That's how it goes. Tad Seath and Brisket Friendo. Bad beat, Tad Seath. Where'd you go, Friendo? Scores base runner is the child of Parker McMillan V, adopted. There was some paperwork. It was a whole kerfuffle. It was never rescinded or outright rejected. It's still true if you ask me. Jessica Telephone is also here because, she got her special item, the dial tone. It's special for her. And also, telephone was mentioned by name. It happens. And, I'm not counting things like the VIP stuff. That's different. But these were entities that went out of their way to do this kind of thing. Oh, also, I'm pretty sure that TGB put their fingers on the scale for her allergy modification at one point. Or at least mentioned being tempted to, which is enough. It's whatever. She's special. York Silk, the vibe check is slightly less convincing than the dial tone, but we also have the whole my dork thing from the Shelled One, so. Wyatt Glover, you will not argue with me on this one, you will lose. A golden glove is a very specific reference, and it doesn't replace the Wyatt Glover VIP call out. It happens first. A golden glove referred to Wyatt Glover running the economy, so no. Different stuff. Nagomi McDaniel only gets in here just barely because McDaniel! That's all we got. But she made it. Tillman Henderson. Tillman Henderson. Pudge Nakamoto. Monitor loves the guy. What can you say? Polka Dot Patterson. Polka Dot Patterson was nearly eaten by the Monitor, but thankfully it was only the peanut shell around him. Safe. Hercules Alligari got a special eulogy from Parker McMillan, Commissioner of Blaseball, after he was incinerated. And, the rest of the expansion team sort of, but this one was oddly specific, and maybe this was just player lore that was immediate and widely accepted, but it specified that he led the Georges to championships, beloved fixture, whole works. And it takes on a slightly different tone than the other ones, so I'm counting it. Next up, we've got players who have a plot-related accolade due to random chance and the Sims inner workings doing their thing. So, we've got stuff like the Season 7 Tacos pitching rotation. They were part of a fan-organized plot called the Snacrifice, which put them all in peanut shells and led to the birth of Pitching Machine. Also, this list has Pitching Machine, born because of the Snacrifice, which is neat. Just a specifically named player dropped onto a team, to fill a gap in the rotation. And there's 2 of them, which is unique in a way. Next up, Dominic Marijuana, who hit the home run that killed the shelled one. Some would argue he shouldn't be on this list. I say we give special treatment to god killers around here. Axel Trollolol is the only pod who swapped over and managed to get released with the Hall Stars. Was also the only person to demonstrate the liberated mechanic of the Hall Stars pod's Day X clash. So, I hope he's miserable. Wyatt Quitter, the only player to be hit by a big peanut and the only player to get staticked who wasn't a Wyatt Mason or in a short circuit. Shit happens. Oh, they also one-shot the crabs. Top Fox blew up the sun. Nicholas Mora blew up the sun too, but it was the sun squared and also only because he got stolen by boxes. So, Rat Mason escaped being stolen by boxes like 3 times and was the only person to escape successfully at all, which is really impressive and rat-like. Sutton Bishop was the first legendary player outside the vault in ILB history, not counting replicas, because they got out a little bit before Parker. They're also the only former vault legend who isn't Parker. Just terrible goose behavior, truly. Hiroto Poole and Simon Peck are a unique case, but I say they belong here. They were incineration replacements for Jalen Hot Dog Fingers that never came to be because the simulation ran multiple times. And the latter of the 2 is actually maybe the one we would have gotten if there wasn't the weird repeat timeline stuff. Mysteriously, they've always been searchable on site still, so they exist in a way. Collins Mellon was unalternated. They were made an alternate, and then it was removed by a big purple eyeball. What? What? Players who have a unique experience, edge case, or modification due to the same circumstances as the last category. For example, we have something like Forrest Best being the only regular ILB player to be seemingly permanently redacted for a few potential reasons, but ultimately still a mystery. Next up, we have a few players I will be referring to as the Dust Fraud crew. For example, Chorby Soul 2 was redacted and such never turned to dust at the end of a season. Chorby Soul 3 committed dust fraud by dying. We take the W's where we can get them. Uncle Plasma 2 committed dust fraud by being in the shadows and even would rejoin the same team's lineup later on through the end of Blaseball remaining on the lineup. Uncle Plasma 9 similarly died but was on the lineup when they did it, so technically still on the lineup at the end, right? Alden Cash Money 4 is a replica like the above, but this one did turn to dust. They just had their fate number go up above 1, which is unique among replicas. And it's the money guy, and their fate went to 25, their quarters, it's cute. Costello Turner is a post-return player on a pre-history team that wasn't in play due to Squiddish, which makes no sense at all if you have no idea what Blaseball is, I'm sure, but you're just going to have to deal with that, I think. They took the 5th base, an object of great and terrible power, and were nullified alongside it. Godspeed, you funky little cactus. Rodriguez Internet had the most modifications on a single player concurrently, at one time. and was also one of 2 players alongside Leech Ingram to survive onto an incinerated team's brand new replacement since the return of Blaseball. Lenny Marijuana was a post-return player who was then placed onto a resurrected pre-return team from the Ultra League Blaseball and then died on it. Their replacement, Clarinet McCormick, is a post-return incineration replacement for a Season 1 shadow on a prehistory Ultra League Blaseball team, which is weird. Raul Leal is special for a few reasons, but the only one that I had that was bulletproof was them being cured of their peanut allergy while haunting Kennedy Loser. Only time it's happened. Fairly unlikely to happen again. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? If it happens again, I'll probably just have to go, well, the Iffy Jr. was preserved after they were incinerated. So there's also that. Next up is one of my favorite players, Demi Blather, a Shadows player for the Maryland Squirrels, which is a prehistory team that was dead long before the return of Blaseball, who, during the return of Blaseball, haunted Kennedy Loser and was redacted and failed to be batted in. So they're still redacted. Terrible. Schneider Bendy played in 2 games at once because they were on a rogue team and apparently considered dead enough to haunt Kennedy Loser while still playing in another game. Rounding out the Kennedy Loser Ghost Shenanigans gang, we have Shannon Chamberlain. And Shannon was haunting Kennedy Loser, stolen base stuff happens, still inhabiting. Not taking over Kennedy's stats, but if you go to Shannon's page, she still has inhabiting. She's sticking around. These next 3 are players who arguably just have simple modifications, but I think they're notable enough to point out. First up, Nandy Fantastic has the Firstborn modification, which says they're the firstborn hatched from the field of eggs, which is a lore thing most people seem to want to completely ignore for some reason. I don't know. Stephanie Winters is permanently underperforming, while Tot Clark is permanently overperforming. Shenanigans happen, what can I say? Next, we have a laundry list of players with seemingly mundane but objectively unique modifications. Most of these were granted through one-off blessings that haven't been seen again, and are occasionally also given through items, but these are the only players who just have the modification. Jacob Winter with Idle Immune, Ron Monstera with Stable, which was ironic considering Ron Monstera would be incinerated in the same election they got Stable, because apparently Stable doesn't protect you from election-based incinerations. Sandoval Crossing with Super Yummy, Igneous Dela Cruz with Chunky, Cadstatter Jr. with Smooth, Paula Reddick with Ambitious, Klein Green Lemon with Outdoorsy, Cootie Di Batterino with Intuitive, Mooney Doctor 2 with Trader, which is only unique among post-return players, but I'll count it, Lenny Watson with Patient, and Margarito Adams and Reggie Moran with Blaze Running, which is it's a modification we've seen on items and through other circumstances, but it's only been seen on a standalone modification circumstance through these 2 players, and they're both prehistory players. I'm putting it there, you can't stop me. So now we've got the honorable mentions, first of which are players I desperately wanted to qualify for the main list, but it felt like it was against my criteria. First up, Kennedy Loser, one of my favorite players. The catalyst for all notable ghost shenanigans, despite not being the sole haunted player at all times. It happens. Dunlap Figueroa carried the 5th base into a semi-centennial as part of a fan-organized plot, but really it would have been whoever it needed to be. It wasn't Dunlap specific, and it failed, but still, good effort. Chorby Soul 5, only player to kill multiple umpires in a single game. Killed 3 within a minute of each other and then 2 not short after. Truly a powerful little replica. We appreciate that. Howell Franklin is the hardest worker in the ILB with the most games played, or whatever. I don't remember how this stat works. And lastly, we have players who should technically qualify, but it's weird, and this is just the tarot readings. An entity called the Reader would do these tarot readings, and it would pick 2 players at random and give specific modifications, and they all got a unique phrase, so it's unique, but also not. So it's just weird. It's a weird thing. These players are Kennedy Rogers and Curry Alicia Keys, Wyatt Quitter and Moses Mason, Collins Mellon, who was unalternated here, and James Mora, Baby Doyle and Orville Manco, and Lotus Mango and Justice Spoon. And those are all the players that are on my list. Not all my favorites are on here, I promise. I'm not a freak. I just built the list specifically in a way I could talk about a few of them. That was my plan. If you want me to make more Blaseball stuff, tell me, because I honestly feel like this is going to be super niche, even though I'm going to post it in Blaseball Spaces. But thanks for watching it if you did. If you got this far, I got other stuff cooking. Most of it's not Blaseball related, but hey, if you like hearing me talk, you got that to look forward to. Deuces.